And welcome in to the Slump Monkeys Concrete Podcast on our way to being the world's #1 concrete podcast. So happy to have you with us. I'm your host, Paul Finley, and we are presented by Command Alcon. Thank you so much to Command for being our very first title sponsor. It's been a wonderful start to the show. It is off like a rocket. We're going to the moon, and the folks at Command Alcon are helping make that possible. They're helping me the same way they've been helping the heavy building materials industry for the last 50 years. Please go visit them, commandalcon.com. Today is maybe the most important episode we've ever done, maybe the most significant interview we've ever had in our concrete podcasting lives. Whether it was the old show or the new show, this one's different. You know, we have a goal here on the show to be four things: smart, original, funny, and authentic. We think if we can provide those four things, then we'll be able to provide a show that the audience can resonate with and we can grow along together. Today's show, it's going to be a little bit light on the funny, but super heavy on the authentic. Our guest today is Joey Bell. Joey was my co-host on the previous podcast. He's my former coworker. I've known the guy literally 20 years, and he texted me saying he wanted to come on the show, and I was like, "Yeah, man. Actually, it's perfect because I had to rearrange some of our interviews, and this is actually a perfect time if you want to come on." And I was like, What do you want to talk about?" Thinking that we were gonna cut it up just like the old days, and he said, "Yeah, I really want to talk about mental health in the construction space." He's like, "I don't think we think about it enough and are focused on it enough." And I it caught me off guard. I was like, "Wow, really? That's what you want to talk about? Okay, well, um, I'd love to, let's dive into it." And he sent me some materials and stuff to review before the show, and then we got into the discussion portion together about why this is so important and why it hits home with him. And as much as I love the current events section of this program, this discussion with Joey is so important that I really don't even want to delay jumping into this. And I love the current events portion of the show. In fact, I was I was thinking all weekend about exactly what I was going to say during the current events of this show. I had a buddy of mine. I hope he's listening because he'll know this is about him. Sent me an absolutely ridiculous direct message about how the economy was going to implode because of whatever AI bubble he sees. And yeah, we've talked way too much about AI on here anyway, so you're going to get a break from that. But I wasn't going to make it about AI. I was going to make it about the economy and uh, why we're seeing some things that sometimes don't always make sense, on a surface level. And I was going to tie it all back to these M&A deals that we're seeing in the concrete space right now, especially that big Arcosa deal that just went down. And I wanted to dig into that Arcosa deal, what makes it valuable, makes it a good buy, a bad buy, what I would have been looking at if I was structuring that, and how I think about it. And then at the same time, I was going to get to absolutely roast my friend's perspective on the economy and valuation of businesses. And what better place to argue with someone than on a podcast where they don't get to talk back and I get to have all the support and I get to sound like the smart one. So I was super excited about that. But then when we had I recorded this interview, I I just said, you know what, we need to just save the economic talk and the M&A deals and how we should be looking at these business acquisitions in the concrete space, these consolidations. I I'm going to table that to another show because this interview is that important. I want to thank our sponsors, not just our title sponsor, Command Alcon, but also Rocket Start. Please take the time to consider seeing what Manny Tejano's doing at Rocket Start. You can visit their website at gorocketstart.com. They're doing everything in their power to up-level the culture in your business. They're focused on driver reward and recognition, which then leads to retainment. They have a phenomenal platform that facilitates that recognition and reward. It's absolutely phenomenal. Love Manny. Love what he's doing. You can see all of that at GoRocketStart.com. And without any further hesitation, I want to get directly into this interview. I think it may be the most important conversation had in the concrete space in 2026. So please welcome our guest, Joey Bell. And welcome into the interview portion of the Slump Monkeys Concrete Podcast. So excited today to have our old friend, Joey Bell from Active Minerals and the Add 10 Gallons Concrete Podcast. Joey, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Man, I'm the last of the Mohicans over here at Active Minerals out here on the island by myself.
Well, that's true. So we all joined like back in the 2012, 2013, 2014 days, which was, dude, think about that. That was a long time ago. We were just young
13
pups.
years I've been here.
Young pups back then, didn't know what we didn't know, charging forward, preaching the gospel of Axogel, which was still a phenomenal product. And there you are, still holding it together.
Yep. We still hanging in there, man. I kind of feel like I see it online all the time. I'm like that character of a show in like the 13th season that's been around since the first season or whatever. Everybody else is gone, like a Walking Dead or something like that. But yeah, we're still here. We're still plugging along. We're doing all right. Could always do better. Could be worse. But we're doing good. We're kind of expanding into, or I'm expanding into like other markets too, besides just concrete, trying to learn more about other stuff that Actigel goes in. So learning a lot and still loving it.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, it's funny you say that about the TV show. I had family in last week and they they watch a lot of TV and they were talking about the shows that they like. And they're like, oh yeah, they're like, we love Criminal Minds. I was like, that show's still on? They're like, oh, well, they did kind of like a reboot type of thing of it, but it's like almost, it's got like some of the same original characters. It's set in the same place. It's all the same stuff. And it reminded me of that meme where it's like, oh man, there's only like 3 people left from the original show. No, charge it forward.
Yeah, that's good though. I mean, I'm always happy to see folks do better and make the right choices for their family and just advance. So I was sad to see you and Josh leave, but I understood like, hey, I mean, when the opportunity arises to do something better for your family, you do it. No, I mean, there's no question about that.
Well, I appreciate that. I don't think it was easy for either one of us to
Yeah.
make the decision when we made our decisions. You know, that it's funny too because the company now it's owned by Hubert. Hubert's a completely different beast than what Active Minerals was, especially like the days when we joined. And back then, I freaking loved AMI in those days because there was so much energy and everybody's working really hard. But then you'd come in like every other week and you'd get the email like all the system passwords had been reset. Because somebody got fired. And, you'd always tell us like, hey, boys, you got to have your head on a swivel.
That was right, man. Yeah. It was like the public execution, man. Like they'd send that email out like, oh, this person is no longer here. They're not allowed on the property. Everything that you access has been reset and you have to spend half a day redoing all that mess. Yeah, it was wild, man. It kept you on your toes.
It was wild, but we liked it because it felt like meritocracy. It felt like, hey, if you're out there kicking butt, taking names, then you were getting promoted. And if you weren't doing any of that, then they're like, we don't have time for this. Like, you're gonna have to go find something else to do.
Yep. So I'm still here. So I guess I'm still doing something.
Doing something. Oh, I remember it was like probably 2013, and one of those emails came out, and they stopped saying like who they were for. Like at first they would tell you who it was. Then they just made it generic because like everything's reset. I called the person that got let go. I didn't know they got let go. They were just in my office like 3 days ago down in the lab. I called them about something and they didn't answer, left a voicemail. And then the freaking head of IT in the company called me and he's like, what were you doing calling that person? What? I don't know. Why are you monitoring my phone calls? Like, what are we doing? Like, he was in my office. I was looking for a sample. And he was like, "Looking for a sample, huh?" I was like, "Yeah, I have this project. We're working on it together." I was like, "Do you know where the sample is?"
Well, I
He was
got you
like,
on here.
"Yeah." I was being completely earnest. I wasn't being a jerk. I needed the sample. And he's like, "No, he got fired. Like, you didn't know? Like, blah blah blah." I was like, "Oh, Jesus Christ!" So now he thought maybe I was implicated in some way. I had no idea what this guy was talking about. Thank God he like believed me on the phone because I mean it was true, but just because it's true doesn't mean somebody believes you.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Um, coming on here, I also want to say thank you to your face publicly here. The Ad 10 show did so well that when I was able to come start this one, it's been really nice to see a lot of that audience already start to trickle in. Show by show, it gets bigger and bigger. The credibility that we have from that last show allowed this show to get some sponsorships that just, I'm not buying a second home with those sponsorships, but it did allow me to buy this microphone.
Yep.
So it's, it's nice to be able to do this kind of thing. So I appreciate all the work that you did to contribute to allow me to go on and carry the torch here with Slump Monkeys.
No, absolutely. That was a blast. Thank you as well for joining on that journey. I still get asked about it. A couple of folks that we all know, that especially after, I don't know, like first quarter or something like that of the year, they were like, "What's that? What happened to the podcast?" And I was like, "Well, I don't want to do it by myself." And so Paul's kicking off his own thing. So, I always, I always send folks your way if they want to continue that Ad 10, vibe that we had
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Like I know I showed you behind the scenes. I showed you some of the numbers of
Hmm.
like views on the post, which it doesn't even make sense really. Like
Hmm.
because you look at like how many people are following and subscribed and on the different platforms, and you're like, how in the world are we getting all these views? Like this is crazy. So I need everybody, if you're listening to this, make sure you're subscribed. I think we have a lot of people that are listening. I think we
Hmm.
might have we legitimately probably have 10 times the amount of people listening that are subscribed to a single episode.
Hmm.
And then there's like 100,000x
Wow.
that are seeing some of these clips. So, um, guys, if you're listening right now, please, please, please make sure that you're subscribed. And while you're there, if you want to give a rating or review, 5 stars for me, 5 stars for Joey, I wouldn't be upset about it. Costs you nothing, does everything for the show. So people might be wondering, why do we have Joey on here? Is it because we just wanted to rehash old times, laugh about watching other people get fired? Is that what we were doing? I'm not sure. And no, it's none of that. Joey actually has a subject matter that's kind of near and dear to his heart. He mentioned it in the past, but we never really found the right time to talk about it on Ad 10, and thought that this might be a good time to bring the subject up. We're talking about mental health in the construction industry. Joey, why don't you lead us into the conversation with what you're seeing, what your thesis is on the situation, and you just take it, you roll with it, and then tell me what you're seeing, and tell the audience what you're seeing, and we'll come in from there.
Yeah. I can speak on a lot of this personally. Um, One, I've been, as y'all all know, been within the construction realm for 15 years now, since 2011. And we all joke about the cast of characters and everything else that we see daily on job sites and all the shenanigans and the goings on and the crazy everything that goes on within the construction industry. And every now and then we talk about safety, like physical safety, like if you fall, if you get electrocuted, something hits you, trench falls in on you, whatever. But it's never been brought up to my knowledge, like all of the hazards that we don't see. And I came across this data that we're going to talk about today. Paul's right. Yeah, I came across it like last year or something like that. It was like men's mental health awareness month or something. One of those months, and I saw something on LinkedIn that showed the suicide rates for construction workers, and it was mind blowing. And then, got to digging around a little deeper, like, and just the mental health problems that occur in our industry that nobody talks about. And it really hits home for me because I've suffered from depression and ADHD for several years now. And if you leave that stuff unchecked, like, it won't just, it won't just stay at work. It'll bleed into your marriage if you're married. It'll bleed into like literally everything going on in your life. Now, my depression thankfully, it wasn't the I want to harm myself and others depression. It was just the depression of like, I didn't get excited about anything. Like, my emotional connection just wasn't there really with anybody. And so that would bleed, that was a big thing at work. Like, it was really hard to get passionate about stuff. Like, we've harped on it, I don't know how many years now, but we love Actigel. I love my job. But more often than not, it was like, man, I couldn't get the motivation, to do some things. And then when that bleeds into your personal life, and oddly enough, it is kind of funny to talk about, but I knew something like I said, I've had depression for many years, but it like took another step, I guess, this spring. My son had a second heart surgery. And so it was just a lot of strain on, my wife and our daughter and our family. And I told my psychiatrist this. I told her, I met with her at like the end of June, and I told her, I was like, I knew something was up when turkey season ended, and I wasn't that upset about it. Like, that was as funny as it is to talk about. That was like a serious thing for me, because what hobbies do I have, Paul?
Yeah, you turkey hunt, you watch college football, and then you had a podcast, but everybody abandoned you on that too, I guess.
Yeah. So it when the excitement for that kind of stuff was removed from my life, it was like, okay, something's got to change here. And it got to a point within my marriage. Communication is a huge thing, as everybody knows. And so this isn't something new. It's just something that we haven't talked about yet. And we probably should normalize talking about the mental health of everybody. It's one thing I've quickly learned is it's perfectly fine to just get it off your chest and talk about it. Now, 5 years ago, if you asked me, hey, you're going to go on a podcast, talk about mental health and depression and everything else, I would probably laughed you out the door. But the fact of the matter is, you've got to be comfortable with this, because I would say 9 times out of 10, somebody else is in the same boat or a similar boat. And so you just got to get comfortable with it. Don't be afraid to talk about it. And I know the industry that we're in, you and I are men, grew up, in the South, and there was always a stigma about, emotion, showing emotion. And like, there never was a talk about mental health from my dad or any other man or male in my life.
Not even once.
And it was, it was a thing of pride, and you're a man, you're just responsible for providing with your family. And all these other things. And then when you get into construction, all these other factors just kind of weigh on you. Not only just the hard work, but just, you're not supposed to complain. You're working long hours. Just get it done. I mean, just saddle up and get it done. And there's a lot of battles that are going on in people's minds. And I kind of want to just dive right into the data if I can.
Okay, well, before you get started diving into everything, I had no idea that you're suffering from any of this.
Yeah, it's like a lot of people don't want to talk about it, me included. Like, I was ashamed of it for years, thought it would just get written off as being lazy or whatever, anything else. Scared to bring it up with my wife. She might have thought I was a head case. I don't know what else. I mean, and I didn't know how to communicate that. That was a big thing, like in our marriage. I didn't know how to communicate how I was feeling because, you know, I don't want to blame my upbringing. I don't want to blame our past for anything that, that we're currently doing. But I've never done that before. I've never talked about my feelings. I always thought it was dumb. Like, why? Like, it's not, feelings aren't really real. You can't hold them in your hand. You can't do anything with them. So I would write them off. But, you get to talking with doctors and you finally tell somebody like what's going on. Like, this is what I'm feeling. And you just try your best to explain it, even though I just said like you can't really explain it. You try your best. And
hold on, because I don't know if people like truly understand. Like, we're friends. Like, you and I have known each other for literally 20 years. 20 it'll be 20 years here in like 3 months from now. And we lived together for at least 3 of those years. And then we lived near each other, like our families vacation together. Like, we are friends. So if you didn't feel comfortable bringing it up to me, then I can't imagine you would have felt comfortable bringing it up to anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially, and my history with mental health, not my own, but dealing with someone else's. And when you said you didn't know how to talk about it, I wanted to ask, like, were you able to even recognize what it was? Because that was the problem I had with dealing with someone that I didn't even recognize for the first year that I was dealing with mental illness. I wasn't sure what I was even seeing or interacting with.
Like, it wasn't like years ago when I first got officially, got the paperwork that said I got depression. Like, I thought it was just like a little phase in my life, and it would like come and go. And this with work, you'd be on a run with work, everything be going good, you're busy. I mean, you're firing on all cylinders, and then I guess you get time to get time to your thoughts. You get a little bit more time to yourself, and you're trying to make things happen. And you get you run into a dry spell, and you would go through these cycles, and eventually it wasn't a cycle. Like, it was kind of just flat. Like, like when I was supposed to be feeling good, those high points, it's like, oh, awesome. We got all this stuff going on. It's like, okay, whatever, I guess I would already think about after that. And I joke about, being a pessimistic. I'm still pessimistic, I guess, because I still like being a realist too. But that was part of it, just assuming the worst, I guess. Like, and I just couldn't get excited about things. And so that went on for years. And like I said, this past spring, when I went turkey hunting, and I joke about, how much it means to me, but it's literally, just like we said, it's literally my only hobby.
Look
I don't
at the
do
wall.
anything.
If anybody's watching this on YouTube, like, look at the wall behind him. If you don't believe the man loves turkey hunting,
And that hobby is 3 months out of the year, March, April, and May, if I wanted to do it all everywhere. And so when turkey season rolled around, and it was just like, yeah, I'm going to go, but I got about as excited about it as I did work, which wasn't really a whole lot at the time.
Man.
And, like I said, I told the psychiatrist, told the doctor, I was like, look, this is what's happened. This is kind of how I'm feeling. I think, something's up. And she was like, it just sounds like you've got like an escalated version of depression. I mean, I've had it for nearly a decade now, I guess, officially, but like, it wasn't as bad as the past few months or whatever. And so what I'm getting at is, go talk to somebody. I mean, you ain't got to go to the doctor, but just call me. I mean, if you want to call me, if you want to message me on Instagram or something like that, I'll talk to you. I'm very open about it now because so many people go through this exact same thing. And so when I saw this data having to do with construction, like it all made sense. Like I feel like I relate to a lot of these people in the industry, besides mental health stuff, because blue collar kid, I'm not afraid of hard work. I love being around the plants and messing around with the drivers and talking smack and all that good stuff. But the fact that so many of these guys they go home every day. They go home with all their fingers and toes. They go home without any injuries. Some of them don't come back to work because they took their own life that night. And so that like really hit. And you always hear about it too. It's like, oh, I never would have thought, that guy, I never would have thought he would have done something like that. And the fact is that, yeah, I mean, they do it literally every day. And so I'll get into a little bit of the data here. Construction has the highest overdose death rate and the second highest suicide rate among all the U.S. industries. The only industry that is higher than construction and suicide is mining.
Oh, great.
Exactly,
Those are both the things we're in.
Exactly. And so it goes on to say, even though construction workers are only 7.5% of the workforce, they account for over 23% of overdose deaths and nearly 18% of suicides. So it's a big deal, and we need to talk about it. It goes on to say, let's see, in 2021, over 15% of construction workers reported anxiety or depression. So that's just the folks that were willing to write down that they have that. It says over 30% felt anxious at least once a month in 2021, which was a 41% increase since 2011, which that makes sense. 2021, you think about what was going on in the world in 2021 versus 10 years before. So that was not surprising at all. Let's see, it goes on to say, and it says 84% of construction workers with anxiety or depression did not see a mental health professional in the past 12 months. So,
yeah, I totally believe. Yeah, that makes sense. 90% of people aren't talking to a professional about it.
Yeah,
for sure.
And only 4.8% of all construction workers reported seeing a mental health professional in the past year. There were some that say cost is a barrier. It kind of delayed them, or they just didn't go because of cost. Men, of course, dominate every field when it comes to mental health, it seems like. So, and that's the exact same case in construction, even more so. We're a male-dominated industry. So yeah, don't think that you're alone out there. Because I would guarantee, if you're at a plant and you got a handful of drivers in that room, I guarantee a couple of them probably feel this exact same way. And you don't have to, I'm not saying that, you got to bring it up in the safety talk at the beginning of the week when everybody's circled around there and, air out, someone's dirty laundry, so to speak. But talk to people one-on-one and just ask how they're doing, ask about what's going on. Because they probably have a lot they want to get off their chest. Stuff going on at home, stuff going on with work or at church or just whatever. It felt so good to finally get a bunch of stuff off of my chest, just with my psychiatrist. And then, being transparent, she kind of adjusted some medication that I was already on, and man, it did wonders for me. I came back home and, my wife has struggled with me for years because of my poor communication, just for the reasons that we talked about earlier. I never talked about it, didn't know how to. But now that, my brain, I never claimed that my brain is firing on all cylinders, but I got another one or two kicking off now. And so it just made me more comfortable. Like I wasn't, I used to just like clam up when, you know, my wife and I would have a kind of deep start that, or she would try to have a deep discussion with me. And I would just like, I, most of the time I was like, I literally don't know how to respond. And that can come across like in a marriage or at a job or just whatever. It could come across as like complacency.
Mhm.
It's like, I don't know how to respond. That can look, the other person could look at that and be like, well, he doesn't know how to respond because he doesn't really care enough to respond.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I also sometimes can struggle to find the right words when I'm talking to my wife. I just assumed I'm a guy, and I like don't
mhm.
really don't know what to say. Even worse, like sometimes when she's upset about something, she's like got a valid point, and and maybe the answer to solve the problem isn't what I want to hear or want to do. So those are the times that I know for me that I clam up. But man, you said a second ago, 10 years that you've been like dealing with this in some fashion, and that it involved medication too. So talk me through. I want to talk a little bit more about your situation, if you don't mind,
Mhm.
so that people who may be hearing this and saying, "Yeah, that's me. I haven't felt as much joy about the things that I find joy in. Yes, that's me. I'm also not communicating at work or with my spouse the way that I used to, even though I want to, or, you know, and so if I go to talk to somebody about it, like I'm just magically going to feel better, or like what, like just to walk me through what that's like."
Like this, I can't really speak much on when I first got diagnosed. I think when I first went in, it was like, I think
Well,
I
what's the,
just,
well, even the diagnose, like, how does that even work? How do they just see it written on your face? Like, how does all that work?
I think it was right after I moved back to Tennessee and I started working from home a lot. And so, anybody that works from home a lot before COVID, before it was cool, you and I worked from home before it was cool.
Hmm.
If you go a stretch or something like that where you don't travel, like one of those slow periods or whatever, like my motivation would start to dwindle. You're trying to make stuff happen and stuff's not happening. Um, and all these other things would pile on. And so it got to a point where I did tell my wife this. I was like, I need some motivation. And at that time I was like, I'll just drink more coffee. Yeah.
Stronger coffee. That is why
Yeah,
you bought the espresso machine. All right,
that's
nice.
right. Yeah. Yeah, I'll just drink more coffee. What kind of energy drinks, what kind of stuff can I just get off the shelf. But, most of that stuff just like made me jittery. It didn't make me want
Oh,
to do things.
me and Josh were just laughing about that the other day. Is like drink all these energy drinks. We're yawning with 180
Yeah.
beats per minute heartbeat.
Oh yeah. And
Crazy.
caffeine, my caffeine addiction is mostly just I have to drink caffeine so I don't get a headache anymore. Like I
Shoot.
can I
Yeah.
can drink a cup of coffee and then go to sleep. Like it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, for sure.
But
Sure.
yeah, first went to the doctor just like, hey, I just need some motivation. I just need something to like give me a little bit of oomph, and get me through the days. And that 2:30 feeling was like weighing real heavy, those days.
Mhm.
Um, and so that was when, I think when you get medication like Adderall, for
Mhm.
instance, you don't just get that from a regular doctor. You don't get that from your primary care. You have to go see a psychiatrist. They have to prescribe that. And so went to this other, the psychiatrist, and I had the stigma in my head like probably everybody else has. Like, oh, this is a head shrink. I'm not Tony Soprano. I don't need to be sitting in here talking to this shrink. Um, this is silly. But she kind of picked me apart, and I'm glad she did.
Mhm.
Asking the right questions, like, well, what do you like? What gets you excited, or what motivates you? I forget what all questions she asked, but she basically just picked me apart enough, and like, she's like, I think you've got like a mild case of depression, and I was just like everybody else, like, well, I don't think so. Like, I don't think I feel sad. And that's what I thought. I thought depression just meant you felt sad all the time. But it was just like your brain it kind of gets a fog over it, I guess. Like you can still function, like you can still see in the fog. You turn on some headlights and you can still see and get by, but it's not clear. And so she started me on some meds, and that fog, lifted, and it lifted for a long time, for several years. And then like it came back. I don't know. I guess you probably just get accustomed to the same dose of medication after so many years. And this is what the psychiatrist said. The second round, the fog came back, but it was worse than it was before. And that's when I went to her, and, she's like, okay, I think it's escalated. And luckily for me, like I said, the depression I have wasn't that I was going to hurt anybody. I didn't want to hurt myself. I didn't want to do anything like that. But she's like, your brain just, the emotional part of your brain just can't get firing off properly to get motivated to do things. Can't really get motivated to be excited about things that you love. It was another thing too, our family travels a lot. We use those airline points, that we acquire over the year. So we use them, we go on trips and things like that. And so when I wasn't excited about a trip, like we went to Hawaii last year, and it was more or less just another day for me. Like we went to Hawaii and I didn't really give a crap. Yeah. And so that was another telltale sign. So got some more meds in me and started taking those, and man, I feel a whole lot better than I did just a month ago. I think it was about a little less than a month ago. I met with my psychiatrist. I meet with her a few times a year, but after this last time, I feel a lot better just about anything and everything. So everybody, I know a lot of folks are out there. They're like, "Oh, you just take more pills or whatever," and they're kind of against just more medication. But man, I'll tell you what, I don't know of anything else that really would have helped me out of the rut I was in, except for medication. It was fast. It took me about a week to kind of calm down, I guess. That first week, it was just I was overanalyzing things. I'd get a little paranoid. I don't know what all else. Brain was just firing off. And I was talking more with my wife about anything and everything. And it was it was a lot for her to take in too, because she was like, "I've never seen this out of you. We've been dating for 10 years now, over 10 years now, dating and then married, of course." But she was like, this is in the last 3 days, it was the most we had talked about anything deeper than surface level in years. And so just that's, I guess, the take home from this part of the conversation is just go talk to somebody. If you don't want to go to a doctor, talk to somebody else at work, whatever, your closest friend. I don't know. There was a friend of mine that he is always in his relationship with his wife, he was the communicator. His wife was the reserved one and didn't really get emotional and didn't know how to communicate that. And so he's always been pretty open about him and his wife's relationship. And so he was one, I'm close to him, but I'm not as close as you, Paul, or my buddy Jacob, or a couple of these other guys that I've known for 30 years in some cases. But I felt comfortable enough with him because he's had these talks before. He was also a former pastor before he started his own business. So he's had these conversations, and he's been part of the conversations. And so I felt real comfortable just reaching out to him and just be like, "Hey, how do I navigate this? What am I doing? I know this is what I've done for the last decade, and now I'm trying to turn things around." And so he had a phenomenal outlook on what to do, what he's done, what his wife's done. I could get that perspective from the other side. It was like it was getting a third party perspective about Krista's, side of things in marriage, or just applying that to things at work, like
Do you
just
remember
people
what
you
he, do you remember
communicate
what he
with.
said that was so valuable?
It was just more from his side of things. Like he now realizes that his wife, it wasn't a lack of empathy or that his wife didn't care. What was important for him was that like she just a lot of times just was not able to communicate what she was feeling inside. Inside, the hamster wheel's just really going. There's smoke flying off of it. You got so many things that you could potentially say, but it's like physically impossible to get them out. Like you just cannot talk about it. I don't know why, it just won't leave your lips. And that goes on, you sit there in silence for several seconds. If we sat here in silence on this podcast for 10 seconds, it would feel like an eternity.
Mm-hmm.
And if then you do that in the midst of a deep conversation, like with your spouse, my wife ain't patient enough to wait 10 seconds for nothing. So,
I mean, as long as you're not scrolling Instagram while she's trying to have that conversation, maybe.
no, it would just be like, you're just kind of, your eyes are wandering because you're almost literally looking for a way to try to communicate what was going on in your head. And so from his side of things, he was like, I now understand that she wasn't just complacent. And I had to be a little bit more patient in the meantime until, she got a little bit more straightened out. And, marriage counseling was a big thing for them. He's like, don't be afraid to go to marriage counseling. And I remember, years ago at AMI, when I had some other personal stuff going on and was talking about like counseling or whatever, marriage counseling, couples counseling, there were several of our managers that had that. I remember sitting in one of them's office. He was like, I've been in it. That guy over there, he was in it too.
Wow.
He's been in those those sessions. There are a bunch of us, which, looking back now is understandable when we were gone so much.
Yeah.
So when you're gone, you got little kids at home, you don't know how to communicate. Like you just become the guy in the house that pays the bills at a certain point. Like your spouse doesn't connect with you. Like your spouse is supposed to be your best friend, like the first person you go to for anything. And when you're not that, they could potentially find that in somebody else. And so that it doesn't have to be like an affair, like a physical affair. Like, if you're not being intimate or anything at home, they're going to go do that somewhere else. But it's the same way with like just a good conversation. And so if you're not providing that to your spouse, I would say they're more than likely going to go seek that out somewhere else. And then if you find out that that's what's going on, it's going to hurt because you're not that person that they went to.
Yeah.
That'd
be devastating. Hopefully nobody's sending my wife memes of the high quality of hilarity of the memes that I'm sending her. That would crush me more than anything, probably.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, what's this guy? You think this guy's funnier than I am?
You think he's funnier? No
you chance. Like his algorithm better than mine? What's going on here?
She might. She hasn't been actually. Now you say that, she hasn't been responding to any of the memes that I've been sending her. I'm gonna have to have a hard talk when we sit down tonight. Like, who you talking to? Who you sending memes to?
I mean, it could get to that point. Like I said, that first week that I was on medication, like, man, I was just like overanalyzing everything.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, me being the pessimist and the realist, my mind would go to the worst thing going on, when in fact, we just needed to talk about it, and it would be nothing. But the fact that we just talk about it just made you feel immensely better. Like, oh, okay. I mean, I trust you. So just communication in general, I think, has helped tremendously.
Well, what's interesting you say that, because we did a sales training a few years back. Gosh, it's probably 2022, maybe 2021, 2022. Did a sales training, and the whole idea of the training wasn't to make you learn how to say the right pitch. It was like, you need to learn about you. And God, that was so valuable for me because it actually opened my eyes to the fact that when I got into like serious situations and I would get uncomfortable, I would want to like make a joke. I'd want
Hmm.
to laugh. And it was not the time, not the place, and like not appropriate in some situations.
Hmm.
But I wasn't just doing that at work. I was doing that at home too. And
Yeah.
there were times, and I just did it on this podcast where we're having a serious conversation, and I was like, "I hope my wife's not sharing memes with somebody." So, I was like, "Crap, I did it again," you know? So I at least my wife knows that about me now. They're like, "Hey, I cope with humor," and that's how I try to get it. Also, another flaw, since we're saying our flaws, I was laughing. There was a meme that went around recently about, somebody like, "Do you have friends?" It's like, "Yeah, I have all these friends. You don't talk to them." "Sure I do." And I, like, see all the memes that you send them, but we never actually have, like, a real never had, like, a real conversation. I mean, that was me and you. It was me and, like, a ton of people. Like, yeah, I talk to
You're
them every day. What are you
basically
talking about? It's just sending memes back and forth.
you're basically pen pals, I guess at that point. Like, you're not really talking, you're communicating through GIFs and memes and dumb crap that you find on the internet, which I'll never. And looking back now, I always remember Hank Williams Sr. Most of y'all that know anything about country music know who Hank Williams Sr. is. And I think one time somebody was interviewing him, and I think if I remember this right, if I get this right, somebody asked him, like, why do you write such sad, heartbreaking songs? And I think his answer was somewhere along the lines of, that's literally the only way I can communicate. And looking back now, after everything that I've had going on, it's like, oh, I understand that now. It's like he couldn't. If you set Hank Williams down and tried to talk about something semi deep, he probably couldn't talk about it. But the fact that he could sit down and put pen to paper and just write those words down into some of the greatest music in history, especially at the time, and launched country music into what it is today. Like, yeah, I get that now, and I look back on and I'm like, in a way, I used to love to write, and I still do. I just don't do it much anymore. Like, I loved to write about turkey hunting. I love to write about concrete stuff. I'm only good at two things, or I like to talk about two things: turkey hunting and concrete. Um, and I get that now. Like, I could put thoughts to paper a lot better than I could just speak them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're a good orator, but like especially when you're reading things, but you're actually legitimately a good writer. So if people didn't know that, you legitimately are a good writer. And
Thank you.
this like concept you're talking about with uh Hank Williams Sr. Actually, you just made another connection, like memories in my brain, things I used to laugh about. And now, like, all right, I get it now. Back when we were in college, you'd see all these 19 and 20-year-olds run around in the house that we lived in, and these guys who were like mostly blue collar, tough guys at college, literally to like educate themselves out of having to like work on the farm anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted to, and these tough guys, like at 1 in the morning, would be in the room crying, drinking beer, and you could have a group of them even doing it. And I just
Mm-hmm.
thought, like, what in the world is going on? They'd be listening to sad Hank Williams songs. And, there's a tear in my beer, and they're like literally just like living out the song, like I feel you, Hank. They're just like, this is this is crazy. Like, what are these people doing? But that was it. They didn't know how to communicate that in their regular lives, so that they didn't have to end up in that spot where they were half drunk or all
Mm-hmm.
the way and crying about the girl that broke their heart or whatever the situation was. And that's making a lot of connections when you say that.
Yeah, it was the only avenue in which, like, just like the Hank Williams saying, like, that was how we, I guess, offloaded a lot of the emotion that we keep pent up all the time because we're guys. We're not supposed to talk about that. That's dumb. Like, you get called all kinds of slander for talking like that. And so when you have all these tough guys, all these farmer guys, blue collar, whatever, and you turn on a sad country music song, And it's just like, okay, I don't have to talk about this, but I can listen to this sad song and have me a beer and laugh about it. But in reality, it's like I'm just offloading a bunch of stuff with this music. And then probably here some other time I'm gonna have to offload it again. If you listen to it a lot like I did, I mean, you had a lot of stuff pent up that you were like getting out daily through this music. Um, so music was a huge part of my life for a long time. And looking back, I think it was for that reason. Like the stuff had to go somewhere. You
Mm.
can only, your body is just like a barrel. You can only put so much stuff into it. And so it has to go somewhere. And so if it wasn't music, luckily mine was mostly music. Yeah, I drank a lot in college, but thankfully, like I guess I was I don't know, maybe I was a functioning alcoholic. I went to class mostly. um, but
Well, I don't even know if is alcoholic even the right word? Like,
like, yeah,
what
I don't really know what,
I don't know either, man. I don't think I'd ever put that label on, well, you were. I think you're partying in college, and then
yeah,
when college stopped, the partying stopped pretty much.
but I guess like what I'm getting at is like most of my most of my offloading of emotion or whatever was through country music. And I do like whiskey. And then there were some guys where they didn't care anything about music, but man, they drank a lot. And
There
when
was
I say
some that
somebody drinks a lot, they drink a lot, a lot. Um, and unfortunately, it eventually was detrimental to their health. They got in trouble, whatever. There were people turned to drugs because it makes them, I guess for similar to alcohol, whatever. Most of us have a vice of some kind, or just an avenue of which it clears our head. We just offload some stuff. So, yeah, fortunately, mine was music, and it kind of turned to writing a little bit. Um, and I don't know really what it is now. Now that I'm more comfortable talking about it,
Mhm.
I don't think I have to. I don't think I have to have those avenues anymore. Like I can just talk about it and offload stuff.
I appreciate you coming on here and talking about your side of this dilemma, and how when you saw these stats, it really opened your eyes that, like, you're not alone, and that there's gonna be people listening to this that are gonna be feeling some kind of way, and they're not alone, and that they can reach out to you, Joey Bell, on LinkedIn. What's your Instagram handle?
Reverend 434. That's my
Yes, that was
Instagram handle.
at Reverend 434, like a preacher, Reverend 434. So I appreciate you putting that out there. I want to jump back to the industry trends. You
Mhm.
mentioned like 20, almost a quarter of all overdoses, job site or workplace overdoses are from the construction side of the business. 18% of suicides in the construction industry, but we're only 7% of the population. Do you have any theories or thoughts on why that is?
I think maybe we touched on it earlier, but it's, you have a pretty heavy mental load at work in the industry, and your decisions have real consequences that you can see. When you're literally building things. You make a wrong decision, and it could be detrimental to other people's safety. You could set a project back, no telling how long. The list goes on and on and on. And so you've got this huge mental load on. And then you couple that with you're working long hours. It's not, especially, way back when, it wasn't uncommon to have 60, 70, 80 hour work week. Um, so you get physically drained. And then I don't know. And when we were traveling a lot, and if you travel a lot, you get a little bit of stress at home, from your spouse, and then you got kids. And so you just get a lot coming at you at one time. Like a lot's on your mind, whether people want to admit it or not, a lot's on your mind. And so that's a lot to juggle. And so I guess like we talked about a few minutes ago, like an avenue of release or something like that, drugs. that's a pretty quick release.
Mm.
You take something. I don't do drugs, so I'm probably the least cool person to talk about, what you do when you do drugs, but you get what I'm saying. Like, it's almost instantaneous, that release. And alcohol is probably, probably a little bit slower, but it's the same kind of thing. That's quick. You can The DARE program made us think that drugs were everywhere, and they were. I guess they were right, because you get to be an adult, and you're like, oh man, people are buying drugs all the time. So they weren't lying, but I guess what I'm getting at is that stuff's easily accessible. Alcohol you can buy off the shelf, and drugs, a lot of drugs you can buy off the shelf now. So I think it's just, that's a quick release. And then when you have so much pent up, I can see how somebody can overdo it. Like, man, I need a lot to get this out of me.
Yeah, well, it doesn't help either because the stress doesn't go away the next day. It's not
Mhm.
like that solves the problem. It just might help you get to sleep that night,
Yeah.
and then the next day. I know you've put a lot of thought into this situation. You've read a lot about the trends in the industry surrounding mental health. So I I'm curious to know your interpretation of things. When I try to think about why would the numbers be so much higher in construction, for these mental health stuff. I I wonder too if we're almost self-selecting in the industry folks that might be predispositioned to this. Um, you're dealing with a lot of folks, especially on the labor side, that you know they didn't choose construction necessarily. They didn't choose concrete a lot of times. You and I did, but they might not have, and so they may be in a situation where like, oh, this is the job that'll hire a felon. This is
Mhm.
this is a job that is not gonna. Uh, I can pass one drug test. They're not gonna do it every year.
Mhm.
This is a job where I didn't have to have an education. I just had to have a strong back. So has there been any research done into that, or have you put any thoughts into? Do we need to be maybe even more sensitive or forthcoming in these types of conversations because we might be self-selecting a population that would be predispositioned to this type of behavior?
You know, I don't know that. I know that we need to talk about it more. And I think if we don't make that situation worse when they enter the construction industry, just like you said, they've got a lot going on. They could already have whatever inside their mind that's bothering them. That's could legit, kill them one day.
Mm,
You're not paying attention on the job site, whether or not your depression or ADHD or whatever. If it's not the kind where you want to hurt someone or yourself or others, you could just not pay attention, and yourself or others could get hurt. Like, it could kill you. So I think I don't know about like the predisposition or anything like that, but we for sure don't need to like make it worse when they get into the industry. And I think we just need to put a little bit more effort, supervisors. I think we need to start treating mental health almost as pretty much as much or more as we treat like physical injuries.
mm.
Like, how many safety briefings have we been through over the last 13 years or so
Yeah, I mean, you can't count that many.
that that talked
Can't
about
count.
that talked about literally anything that you could physically hurt yourself with.
Yeah, yeah.
Tripping over something, falling off of something, getting run over by something that's flammable. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. How many how many uh how many sessions have we had to sit through that talk about what we're talking about right now? I can't
I
think of
mean,
one.
I can't. I
There had to
can't
have
think.
been one.
There might
HR,
have
I'm
been.
sure, would have made sure that there was at least one of those sometime or another.
Well, they might have been like one slide inside of one presentation that was done one
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so Like it's a safety hazard. And I think we need to start treating it like that. Like guys, a lot of guys are just not okay. And that could just lead to bad decisions. And that could lead to somebody losing an appendage or not going home at all.
Well, and you're saying they're not okay, but they can be okay.
They can
And
be.
and it starts with just having a conversation with somebody and letting them know that you care and that you're there and you can have a conversation with this person. And it can be private. It doesn't have to be like out in front of anybody. Don't have to call anybody out. Um, you know,
Yeah, like I
but
said,
always,
this isn't something you need to air out at the weekly safety meeting with everybody
yeah,
sitting around. Like just take somebody aside. Like you can get a few minutes, you know, for yourself every day and sometime during the workday. And that's all it takes. You know, just that little nudge or something like that. And then somebody can just like, man, I've got some SHIT going on.
yeah,
Let's hear
yeah.
about it.
I mean, dude, we all got something, right?
Everybody got something. That's another thing too, is like, don't ever think that anybody has it all together. You know, especially like social media. You know, social media is not real life. I don't care
That's
what anybody says.
first message I taught my daughter's 10 now, and
Hmm.
she's like, "Why is social media bad?" And I tried to explain to her like, "Well, the problem is that none of it's real, and whatever message that is being communicated to you is your feelings about that are going to be real." And
Hmm.
so when you see a photo and your friend says, "Wow, great dinner with my family. We're on vacation. Yay, look how great my life is." Like what they're not showing you is that right before they took that picture, they were all arguing and fighting. And then for like 1 second, they smiled and looked at the camera and then went back to
Hmm.
fighting or, whatever it is, like they're not going to present both sides, the whole story and let you know that,
Hmm.
yeah, we're not perfect people. I was like, so, for a young girl, I'm not going to expose you to this trap known as Instagram. So she's not allowed to have any social media. And
Hmm.
her friends already, dude, she's in fourth grade, about to go into fifth grade. Her friends already got phones. They already got
Golly.
Facebook and Snapchat. Snapchat's like the big thing. And I'm like, no, I'm sorry. You can be mad at me and upset with me now, but
Hmm.
when your brain works later, you'll thank me.
Yeah. No, it's scary, you know, to think about bringing kids up in the world, but you also, I mean, you can't think that negatively about it. You know, I can't believe I'm saying that, but but that's a dark path to go down if you're all doom and gloom. I mean, you gotta look at the bright side of everything. I've said social media isn't real life, and that's true. But I think social media is also what you make it, and I'm not really talking about kids, I guess, so much as like adults, because I've heard so many people that say, "Oh, I got off of social media because I didn't like what I was seeing." Well, you
Mhm.
control that. Like you don't have a TV and you watch one channel. You can change the channel. You you control what you see on social media, and how our Instagram algorithms can tell us that. You linger on a reel or you linger on a post for however many seconds, and it makes note of that, and it'll find something else like that to send you. So don't think that social media is the issue in many cases. I mean, you just gotta be looking at different stuff. If you don't like if you don't like politics and all this doom and gloom stuff that you would see if you watch the news, then you probably need to just follow college football or or like some of this construction humor that you and I send each other a lot, or business humor and sales and things like that. My Instagram feed is, I like it. It's not, when I get on social media, I don't get depressed. I don't think bad things because I've controlled what's on there.
Yeah, same. Mine's also very happy. I try not to spend too much time on there. As I don't know if I've mentioned it every podcast, but it comes up. We got a little baby. It's 4 months old, and man, when I'm done, when I clock out from work, like I grab him, so there's not like a bunch of time to be scrolling on
Hmm.
the old Twitter feeds and stuff. I do get I have several bosses, and they like to call me at any time. And I can't tell you how many times they've called at like 5:30, 6 o'clock, and they're like, "Hey, what are you doing? We'll talk about this thing." I'm like, "I'm strolling the baby around the neighborhood. Fire
Mhm.
away, man. Like, I can talk just as easily pushing a stroller, I guess." Um, but yeah, so thankfully, I've had less time to be on those things, and I think it actually, I think it does help. I think it helps being off of that stuff and not seeing people arguing back and forth. Even if you find it interesting, like, oh, that's an interesting point. Oh, that's an interesting counter argument. Oh, that's an interesting
Mhm.
rebuttal back to that counter argument. Even if it's interesting, it's still, it always, for some reason, it always veers toward negative
Yeah.
when those people are talking, or it may just come off as negative because it's text,
Yeah.
and it's really hard to show empathy in
Mhm.
a text message. I try not to have like serious conversations with anybody in a text message because, like, this is not going to come off the way it would come off if I was standing in front of you and we were having
Mhm.
a genuine conversation. So
Mhm.
back to the construction industry. Um, what are some more findings that you've done in your research as you've, um, were first shown by a LinkedIn post that kind of like grabbed your attention, and you started diving deep on this for the last couple years? What's some more stuff that you've learned that we should know about?
I think, that was the gist of it, that there was this data, all these things are happening, but we're just not talking about it. I think it's just that the main takeaway here is like that we just need to be more open about the stuff that goes on in our head. Um, because it just leads to the worst of the worst. Somebody taking their own life,
Mm,
which fortunately has never. I've been fortunate enough that's never entered my mind. Like I couldn't. My biggest fear in this world is leaving my children without a father, and so the fact that it got so bad for somebody just like me that they felt that was the only way out, like that is horrible, and I wish that that would never happen again. Of course, it probably will, or it will, but we need to put forth our best effort to make sure it doesn't happen. Like we've got to start treating this stuff with the same dedication that we give to tripping over an electrical cord at the plant, and just menial stuff like that. Like we just need to be talking about this more because it's happening. We're just not talking about it.
yeah, we got hit with it just last year. There was a former VP of AMI
Mhm.
got
Yeah.
into a situation where he thought that was his only way out. And this is one of those classic cases of like, who, what? Like, no
Yeah.
way. Like, the guy
Mhm.
had it all. And yeah, I guess you just never know what people are struggling with. Um,
This stat was interesting. This is from the Center for Construction Research and Training. It was like a data bulletin that they put out. In 2022, it said overdose deaths outnumbered fatal work injuries 17-1. For
Jeez.
every one workplace fatality, they had 17 overdoses that I guess could have happened anywhere. They could have happened on site, they could have happened on the job, they could have happened at home, whatever. But these employees did not make it to the next shift for every one fatal
And
work
you,
injury.
and you think that goes to like what you were saying, where we've done such a good job as an industry putting safety, at the physical safety, at the
Mm-hmm.
forefront, that if we do, you know, maybe it doesn't have to be exactly equal, but we also put effort into mental health safety,
Mm-hmm.
that these numbers could improve.
Yeah.
Um, wow, that's interesting. So you work at Huber, and for those that don't know, they bought Active Minerals, and let's keep the name and all that fun stuff. But one of the great things about being acquired by Huber, when we were there, when I was there, is their benefits package was insane. I know you're on your wife's because she works for the government, and they're also good. but I'd never been a person that cared about like, what the benefits package was. Like, who cares? Let's roll. Let's go, you know, kick butt and take names.
Mhm.
Not worried about this or that. Um, but when Huber came in, they more benefits than you could shake a stick at. One of the ones they had was a company called Lyra, 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 and it was a mental health benefit.
Mhm.
So even if we're not talking about it in our circles on the construction side, even within our own company, maybe you and I aren't being exposed to it, but somebody cares and they took the time to make sure they went and got that benefit. It wasn't like a standard part of like, oh, you have Blue Cross Blue Shield insurance folded underneath of that as this mental health thing. It was a completely separate program and it was bolted on. And my daughter went through a thing and I called Lyra and like, I mean, so it's funny because I called like a bunch of like psychiatrists and tried to get their regular insurance, tried to do all this other stuff. And everything, oh, we're booked out 2 years. Can't even talk to nobody. All this stuff. Went through Lyra, got an appointment in 48 hours. And
Wow.
then she got 8 appointments after that one. We paid nothing.
Wow.
So, so when you made me think about it, because you're saying, hey, as an industry, and as you know, when we say as an industry, what you're really saying is the companies in the industry could start bringing this to the forefront. But let's say a guy does come to you and says, me, myself, or my spouse, or my kids are going through a mental health challenge, hopefully not a crisis, but a challenge. Um, who do we go talk to? Because maybe they don't want to open up to a peer or a manager. They want to how do I find the psychiatrist that Joey found? How do I find these people? Where are they at? And there are services out there like Lyra, Lyra, that do all that heavy lifting for you. It was phenomenal, dude. It was so easy, it was so fast, and they got set up immediately. The guy was great, helped us out. I mean, just couldn't recommend it enough. So thank you, Huber, and thank you, Lyra.
Yeah. Yeah, the resources are there, especially on a corporate level. Um, but I think and those are great, but I think you a lot of times you gotta start at the ground level. Like, you gotta start with the guys out in the field and just one-on-one because I've there are often times where, yeah, it's easier for me to talk to, like, a third party than to, like, one of your friends or whatever because I started learning about this too, like, people you're close to, you hold their opinion on such a high pedestal that you don't wanna disrupt that. You don't want them to think you're afraid of what they would think. Whereas, third party, doctor, whatever, like, it's a lot easier to open up to them. Um, and that was one of the cases, like Paul, you and I, like, I never really was comfortable talking to you about it. I never told my wife about a lot of this stuff. And she should have been the first person that I talked about it with. But, you know, we you've got to start somewhere. Like,
Yeah.
and I think you just got to start out in the field, one on one, and then get somebody like professional help. And don't put a bad stigma on that phrase either. Like, professional help is literally somebody that knows what they're doing that can
Mhm.
help you. When oftentimes we say you need professional help, it's like, oh, you need a straight jacket. That's
That's
not
right.
the case. You know, there's people out there that can help you immensely in various methods, either medication or whatever kind of sessions to talk through and
Yep.
activities, whatever. I mean, it's limitless. So don't think that you're just gonna roll into the doctor and they're gonna give you a pill and send you on your way. It's not like that. Like, they can help you the best way that you want to be helped.
Well, you mentioned the marriage counseling, and I was kind of like against that a little bit. Not the second time around, the second marriage, but um, like just the idea of it wasn't like I don't know about that. Um, but then I got a reframing of the situation, and they were like, "No, this person, like, don't think about it as counseling. Imagine you, or you should think about this person as a coach, because you would never be like, oh, I'm going to go play football and just walk out on the field in full pads and nobody have ever taught you anything. You need to be coached up. If you want to be good at anything, it's going to help if you have a coach, but nobody's teaching you how to be in a relationship or be in a marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Like, go get yourself a coach. They'll teach you the basics, blocking and tackling, and then you go out there and you figure it out. And
Yep.
some of us are 5-star recruits, and other of us got to go find other things to do.
And you quickly realize that it is not easy for anybody, regardless of their star level, if they're a 5-star or a 1-star punter. I
I got 5-star heart. Brick by brick, building this marriage brick by brick.
Hashtag Butch Jones.
Hashtag
But-
sorry,
but no-
the humor thing again. I apologize.
But when you talk to people, like, nobody's marriage is easy. I don't care who is out there, what they post, what they say to your face, whatever. Nobody's marriage is easy. Absolutely
Yeah.
nobody. And I don't
Yeah.
care how good it is. It takes a lot of work to make something run good. It takes a lot of work to keep things running awful too. Like, it's just hard in all aspects. And so don't be afraid to, don't think that, yeah, this person's got it all together, they're going to judge me. No, they don't. They do not. Especially if they got kids. One of the first things I realized when I had kids was that my parents didn't have a freaking clue what they were doing. And they didn't have near the resources that we have now. Like,
Mhm.
they literally just got sent home with me and a pamphlet, if they were lucky. And then they had to, that's where the phrase, it takes a village. Yeah, it does take a village, because don't one person know what's going on. You're going to have to talk to 100 different people.
Yeah, my wife and I just had this conversation literally this morning in the kitchen about, like, she's like, I don't know what to do about this with the baby. And I was like, well, we have AI now, honey. All our problems are solved. Just ask them. And she looked at me like, gave me that look that she probably should have gave me. And I was like, well, in the past, she was like, hey, but you're supposed to be the expert. You've already had one of these things. And I was like, I don't know nothing. And
Mhm.
I was like, but in the past, you would have asked your neighbors or your family or whatever. And she's like, yeah, none of our neighbors have kids.
Yeah.
It's like, well, we have AI. Ask him. He knows everything.
Well, that's another thing too. I mean, if you don't want to talk to somebody, you don't talk to a person and make that first step in that direction. I mean, just log into ChatGPT. I mean, because I've done this, I've logged in there and be like, hey, like, how can I convey this
Mm.
without sounding whatever that I don't want to sound like? And man, they'll spit it right out. They'll help you. So if you want to talk to somebody, plug it in ChatGPT, and that's at least a step in the right direction. You're not stagnant. You're at least
Well,
getting somewhere.
Well, let's be real clear. You didn't make ChatGPT your therapist.
No.
You were asking it for help on how to talk,
Yeah.
or how to message, which I think that's a really important distinction. You 100% though did the meme where instead of talking to a therapist, you started a podcast. So congratulations.
I've had a couple podcasts. Thank you. If that tells you about how much therapy I probably really needed.
Oh man, that clip is going to be on the internet. So thank you for that.
There you go.
Man, this has been good. You know, as a friend, I hate to hear that you were going through anything, but I think it's nice that we can have this conversation and bring this to the attention of the industry, and they're not hearing it being preached from on high from an HR person sitting in an ivory tower.
Mm-hmm.
They're hearing it from you, and nobody has been in the mud more than you. Nobody's been to as many states making mixed design changes, helping people out on the technical side as you, and now you're potentially helping people out on the mental side as well. So thank you for coming on here and talking about it. I'm still going to give you crap all during the college football season.
I hope so.
The dark humored memes are still coming your way. I don't care, how many psychiatrists you talk to. You're still my friend. I'm not going to treat you any different.
Good.
But I can totally understand how, like, you wouldn't want to make that first move to say, hey, buddy, feeling a little down, because even like as your friend, we might not know what to say and how to even handle that conversation. So just to put a nice little bow on this, we are having this, or Joey, I should say, brought this to my attention and wanted to have a conversation about it because he is alarmed at the statistics behind our industry. And today is a good first step to raise awareness, to have that conversation and say, we as an industry can do better company by company. We've done such a good job at promoting physical safety and improved that area of the business. Now we need to shift some of those resources to mental health and see if we can help folks there as well.
Yeah. I'm willing to talk to anybody about anything. I am never going to claim to be a professional in anything, especially this, any kind of, mental anything. But I'm happy to be an avenue of which you can offload some stuff on, and you won't hear any judgment from me, because just like we said, probably a lot of stuff that you're going to tell me, I've probably been through it too. And people in glass houses and such. I mean, ain't no rocks sitting around here. I'm not going to cast any kind of judgment. So feel free to reach out to me.
No, that's cool, man. Thank you. And so if you want to reach out to Joey more on this topic, you can DM him on LinkedIn at Joey Bell, working for Active Minerals in Huber. You can find him. He's probably got a turkey suit on, even on his professional pages. And then you can also find him on Instagram at Reverend434. It's Reverend like a preacher. 434. Joey, thanks again for coming on. Glad to hear things are going swimmingly back at our old stomping grounds. You are the last of the Mohicans, and you're spreading the good word, not just about ActiGel, but now also about mental health awareness and construction. So thank you, bud.
Hey, thank you, brother. Proud of you.
Thank you, man. Well, I'm looking forward to college football season. We'll have to have you back on. Josh is going to come on pretty regularly, talking about conspiracies. We'll probably do one a month. Conspiracy Corner. Maybe you'll come on and we'll make fun of each other's football teams once a month.
Totally fine with that. Happy to come on, man.
All right, dude. I appreciate it. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, buddy.
Please subscribe to the Slump Monkeys Concrete Podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Visit us on LinkedIn, follow us on YouTube, and reach out to us at admin@slumpmonkeys.com to inquire about sponsorships or guest appearances. Thank you and have a great week.